Welcome back to Revenue RX, the podcast at the intersection of pharmacy and finance. I'm your host, Lubna Mazen. Today, we're talking about modifiers. Two characters added to the end of a HCPCS code that can change a denial into a payment or what should have been a clean claim into an item that enters a work queue. A modifier is a two-character code that includes letters or numbers, and sometimes both, that attach to a CPT or HCPCS code. It doesn't change what service was performed, but it adds context about how, why, or under what circumstance that service happened. I like to think of modifiers as adjectives. Adjectives describe nouns, and the noun is the HCPCS code. There's a wide range of different modifiers that say different things. Some say that a drug was wasted, while others say that two services happened on the same day but are not duplicative. Leave the modifier off when a payer expects one, and the claim reads as incomplete. Even though the underlying service was billed correctly, you will still get a denial. Let's start with the two modifiers that you'll probably encounter more than any other in pharmacy billing: JW and JZ. These two modifiers work as a pair. JW reports the amount of a drug from a single-dose vial or a single-use package that was discarded and not administered to any other patient. JZ is the opposite. It confirms that no drug was discarded. I like to think of JW as just waste and JZ as zero waste. For Medicare outpatient claims involving separately payable drugs assigned OPPS status indicator of G or K that are single-dose vials or single-use packages, they will require one of these two modifiers. If a drug was wasted, report JW. If no drug was wasted, report JZ. Another key piece to these modifiers is that you must use the smallest vial size available that creates the least amount of waste. For example, if you have a drug that comes in 1 milligram, 5 milligram, and 10 milligram vials, and the dose that you need is 9 milligrams, you would need to use 1 5 milligram vial and 4 1 milligram vials to not report any waste. If you used a 10 milligram vial and reported 1 milligram of waste, you may end up with a denial. So why does CMS care so much about documenting discarded drugs? And why do you get additional reimbursement depending on the payer? The answer goes back to 2017. Effective January 1st of 2017, CMS established a national policy requiring providers to report discarded amounts from eligible single-dose drugs using the JW modifier. In November of 2021, Congress passed the Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act. One of the provisions in that act required manufacturers of certain refundable single-dose drugs to refund Medicare for discarded amounts. To calculate those refunds, CMS needed a way to accurately assess discarded drug waste. JW was supposed to provide that data, but compliance was inconsistent, and CMS couldn't tell if people were just non-compliant or if there was no waste associated with that claim. That's why JZ was created. JZ closes that gap by confirming that there was no drug discarded. Instead of guessing, now every eligible drug tells a complete story. Either the drug was discarded and reported with a JW, or the drug was not discarded and reported with JZ. JZ became available January 1st of 2023, became mandatory no later than July 1st of 2023, and in October of 2023, Medicare contractors could return eligible claims as unprocessable if neither modifier was reported when they were required. These modifiers do more than support payment. They provide the data that CMS uses to administer the manufacturer refund program created by Congress. The next set of modifiers I like to call the 340B trio. This trio trips people up because the rules recently changed. JG used to be the Medicare Part B modifier for drugs acquired through the 340B program. That modifier is now retired. CMS requires every 340B covered entity to stop using JG as of December 31st of 2024. Prior to 2024, JG was used for disproportionate share hospitals, or DSH, rural referral centers, and non-rural sole community hospitals, while the TB modifier was used by specific exempt entities, which include freestanding children's hospitals, freestanding cancer hospitals, and rural sole community hospitals. As of January 1st of 2025, everyone needs to use the TB modifier for Medicare outpatient claims acquired through the 340B program. Same purpose, just simplified coding. UD is one that sometimes people confuse with TB. That's because they are both used for drugs acquired through the 340B program. But UD lives on the Medicaid side, while TB lives on the Medicare side. TB and UD are not interchangeable, and using the wrong one for the wrong payer could result in a denial. If you have a Medicare crossover claim, meaning the patient has Medicare as primary and Medicaid as secondary, depending on the state, you may need to use both modifiers. Crossover claims are when Medicare is the one forwarding or crossing over the claim to the secondary payer. The next set of modifiers are JA and JB. JA and JB distinguish the route of administration when a drug is FDA approved for more than one route. JA indicates IV administration, while JB indicates sub-Q administration. That distinction matters because the route of administration can impact both billing and reimbursement. The next set of modifiers are used for erythropoiesis stimulating agents, EA, EB, and EC. EA is for anemia caused by chemotherapy, EB is for anemia related to radiotherapy, and EC is used when ESA is administered for any other indication. AY is a similar modifier used for patients with end-stage renal disease, and it indicates that an item or a service is not related to ESRD treatment and should be paid outside of the ESRD prospective payment system. Payer logic frequently treats a missing modifier as a different problem than a wrong code. Some payers auto-deny a claim outright when JW and JZ is absent, while others wait till an audit and then claw back the payments. Two mistakes I often see: treating modifiers as an optional add-on instead of a requirement, and assuming modifier rules are universal. The modifiers are not standardized, and payers may require different modifiers for the same purpose. Modifiers may be a small part of the claim, but they have a big impact. Thank you for listening to another episode of Revenue RX. If you enjoyed today's episode, share it with a colleague and subscribe. Healing patients is the mission. Protecting the margin is the strategy. This is Revenue RX. Quick disclaimer, this podcast is for informational and educational purposes only. The views shared are my own and do not represent any organization that I am affiliated with. This is not legal, financial, or reimbursement advice, and you should consult your internal experts before making any decisions.